Hi folks, how you doing? This is Iqbal. Microsoft earning is due today. In this video, we'll do the price projection for Microsoft to understand how high or how low Microsoft can go after earnings. We'll use financials, forward EPS, and the forward PE ratio to do the assessment. And this assessment will help you make the right decision after earnings. Now, let's get started. On your screen, you see the historical data for Microsoft Financial for last 5 quarters. You have revenue, net income, profit margin, gross margin, earning before interest, taxes and depreciation margin percentage, EPS, free cash flow per share and debt to equity ratio. And also I have these two columns that compares year over year change and the quarter over quarter. Year over year means the last quarter versus last year same quarter. And quarter over quarter means last quarter versus prior quarter before the last quarter. So starting with the revenue, you see that the revenue keeps going up each quarter and the year over year 17% increase in the revenue. The quarter over quarter is 9.7%. So revenue is going good. Now, net income. Net income, you see year over year 33% up, but quarter over quarter is going down. So this means that the last quarter versus prior quarter before last quarter, we have some decline happened in the last quarter, 22.29 versus 21.87. And same thing with the other margin percentage as well. You see that profit margin, gross margin percentage, and the EBIT DA margin percentages, all negative prior quarter versus last quarter. You see, but year over year is going good, meaning last quarter versus last year same quarter is going in the right direction. We see the growth on the margin percentages. And the free cash flow per share, you see last quarter versus prior quarter before last quarter was 55% down. So 2.78 versus 1.23. So not going in the right direction. This means that Microsoft is not doing a very good job in managing their free cash flow. But year over year, they are doing good. The last year, same quarter was 0.66, and the last quarter we had 1.23. So debt to equity ratio, I do not see much change from quarter over quarter. We'll talk about more on the EPS in the next tab. This means that Microsoft has to do a better job in improving their margin percentages. Now moving on to the EPS, you see these two tables. This table captured the EPS for last 6 quarters, EPS projected versus EPS actuals. In all of these last 6 quarters, we saw the earnings surprise, positive. This tells that Microsoft was able to beat expectations. In the next 4 quarters, you see the EPS projections. So, the latest quarter, this quarter, we are expecting 2.82 versus the actual happened last quarter was 2.93. So the projected number is lesser than the last quarter actuals, and that's not a good sign. But I'm hoping Microsoft can beat the expectation. So historically, they were able to beat it. So if they beat it again, that will help Microsoft stocks to go up after earnings. Another thing to look at is Q1 24 versus Q4 24. You see that earning growth 17%, and that's a very good sign. Now let's move on to the forward PE ratio and try to make an assessment for Microsoft minimum, average, and the maximum price. So I have this table. In this table, I have EPS forward, EPS trailing 12 months, adjusted closing price for last 1 month, and I calculated the forward PE ratio with respect to the trailing 12 months EPS, and also calculate the forward PE ratio with respect to the forward EPS. Let me tell you, EPS forward is basically last quarter actuals plus next 3 quarters earning projections. And EPS trailing 12 months is basically last 4 quarters earning actuals. And also I have this table. So this captures the forward PE and the trailing PE for last 11 quarters. And I also have this table. This has the EPS projected versus actual for last 11 quarters. And I calculated the earnings surprise for each quarter for last 11 quarters. So most of the quarter we saw positive earnings surprise with the exception of just 1 quarter, that is Q2 2022, and that's negative. And using that, I calculated the median, minimum, average, and a maximum forward PE for last 4 quarters, these 4 quarters. Okay, I'm not using Q4 2023 numbers, because that looks to me anomaly is too high. The forward P and the trailing P is too high. So to me, it's an outlier, so I should not be using it in my calculation. So these four numbers looks to me more relevant. So I'm using those to calculate the median, minimum, average, and the maximum forward P for these numbers. And also I calculate the minimum, average, and the maximum earnings at price using this table. Okay, now I'm ready to calculate the Microsoft minimum, average, and the maximum price. I have calculated already those numbers. So let me go over with you. In the minimum, I'm using the formula G4, that is EPS forward, and then I'm multiplying it with the Q30, that is this guy, the minimum forward P for last 4 quarters, and then earning surprise, that is P37. So I'm using 0% as the minimum earning surprise because there was some negative as well. So I'm not gonna use negative value because that's gonna mess up my calculation. So that gives me 286.27 as the minimum Microsoft stock price. And for the average, I'm using the same formula, that is G4, that is EPS forward, and then multiplying with R30, that is the average forward PE for last 4 quarters, and then multiplying it with the earning surprise, that is Q37. That's the average value of the earning surprise for last 11 quarters. And that gives 464. And then the maximum price for Microsoft using the same formula, that is G4, that is EPS forward, and then the second factor, that is S30, the maximum forward PE, and the third factor, that is earning surprise, that is R37. This guy, the maximum earning surprise for last 11 quarters. So that gives me 583 as the maximum price for Microsoft after earnings. So these are the three levels, right? So Microsoft should be trading between these three levels, whatever happens. Okay. So at this point, Microsoft is at 409, so slightly lower than the average price. So I'm guessing Microsoft should be able to go up if they're able to beat the earning projections. But at the same time, you need to remember the next quarter earning projection is not very great. Yeah, I'm talking about this one. So 2.82, and then after that 2.88. So not going up too much. But after that in Q3 2024, the projection is good, 3.17. So at this point, I think Microsoft is a good buy if it goes below 400. So another thing you notice, Microsoft forward PE at this point is 36.99. So if you compare with Nvidia and other high-tech stock, Microsoft forward PE is low. So this tells me that Microsoft has some room to go further up. That's all about Microsoft analysis and assessment before the earnings and after the earnings. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you more tomorrow. Take care.